Good evening, everyone. I'm Lissy Bastien. It's Thursday, January 9th. Thanks for staying with us. His clarion call continues, and that's from Bishop Simeon Hall, who is continuing his quest to condemn murder and crime here in the capital. As New Year's Day ended with a murder followed by two murders only days later and hours apart, Bishop Hall is on a mission to encourage a more peaceful Bahamas.
Each time there's a murder, two families are negatively impacted. 3 murders in 6 days is frightening, and we cannot shout the statistics and say we're glad that it wasn't 100, but it was 90 something. This is a crisis, and we should treat it like that.
Bishop Hall says the church can play an integral part in solving crime by taking the message of peace to communities. He's calling for the church to become more relevant to the average Bahamian.
The church needs to find better ways to take its message into the community and reach out to those who do not come to church. And we need to stop thinking we're in heaven and we're living on earth among all these things that are happening, and we need to address them. I think too many of us are passive and we want to pray about everything. There's a place for prayer. But the prayer without works is dead.
While acknowledging that there are many reasons why some young men turn to a life of crime, Bishop Hall appeals to young men to live more peaceably.
I appeal to the best in you. I appeal to whatever is good in you, to remember that life is precious. And usually, persons who live by the swords die by the sword. And prison is not good. You lose your family, you lose your children, you lose all association. I'm appealing to persons of criminal mind. Put down your guns. Find a better way to negotiate.
On Tuesday, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson released statistics that show 95 murders occurred in 2019. Although he was satisfied that the murder rate remained under 100, the stats show that it was higher than 2018. Commissioner Ferguson says 80% of the 95 murders were committed with use of a firearm, adding that these incidents do not account for other shootings which occur in communities that police deemed hotspot areas.
We are really concerned about the numbers of shooting, and it's not going down. It's not going down. It remains at a high, unacceptable level. So I'm very concerned about those things.
Armed robbery also increased in 2019 when compared to 2018, with 531 incidents recorded. Commissioner Ferguson says illegal firearms during the committing of crime remains a major concern. As the year 2020 progresses, it is hoped that the new policing plans will help stem the tide of crime in the country. In a Supreme Court packed with justices, magistrates, and lawyers, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Carl Bethel opened the 2020 legal year, applauding the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. However, he acknowledged that improvements are necessary in the completion rate of criminal trials. Senator Bethel said the completion rate of criminal trials scheduled in any given year is far below where the system needed to be if it is effectively to address the ongoing backlog of serious criminal matters.
Of 529 scheduled trials, only 150, roughly 28.36 trials were completed. We must do better than that. However, it is clear that we must work, my Lord Chief Justice, on the extent to which we can improve the delivery of justice by ensuring that we can begin to truly prevent continued growth of the backlog by being able to dispose of more cases in a timely manner during the course of the year.
He said of the 132 trials completed, 103 resulted in convictions, while 29 resulted in acquittals, which represented an improved overall conviction rate from 70% in 2018 to 78% in 2019. Mr. Bethel added that of the scheduled cases, 36.67% were served with a voluntary bill of indictment, fast-tracking the matter to the Supreme Court. He noted that the average time for an individual to be served with a VBI is now 2 months, which he said is a significant improvement in the reduced time taken to bring an accused person before the Supreme Court. Members of the Progressive Liberal Party gathering today for a walkabout in the Over the Hill community in the heart of the Over the Hill on the traditional commercial East Street. Leader of the opposition, Philip Davis, chastised the Free National Movement government for what he says is much talk and much fluster over what is to happen and what will be happening when it comes to the Over the Hill initiative. The Minister administration put plans in place to revitalize the Over the Hill community back in 2018. Mr. Davis says they have discovered and are now demonstrating that whatever the F&M government did all fell flat and is a colossal failure.
We are here just to demonstrate it, illustrate it, and to show what is happening over the hill. This is just but an example of what is being inflicted to our people in the over-the-hill communities, and we're just going to demonstrate it. When you walk the street, it's like walking on a washboard. When you look at businesses, they are crying for help. When you see the residents, the weight of taxes that's weighing on them, placed on them by this government, it's become unbearable.
Well, Cale Mortimer, the president of Mortimer Candies, a well-known business establishment at the top of the East Hill Street for more than 50 years, expressed his frustration.
Any of the small businesses having in the area would be the taxation. The taxes, the VAT taxes increase. You now also have to pay tax on a tax, which is the duty on everything you import. Even though I'm a manufacturer, I still have to bring in my raw materials, and it's very hard when you have to pay almost a 30% tax just to bring in raw supplies, and then the labor cost of doing business in the Bahamas is extremely high as well. So that's the biggest toll we have at Mortimer Candies is taxation.
Along with taxation, Mr. Mortimer also highlighted issues in which his business faces.
Be the biggest hindrance I have. As simple as the road outside, the road hasn't been paved in many years. This is probably the busiest street in the Bahamas. The ambulance, fire trucks have to go up and down it, and it's a risk, and there's so many accidents happening right at the brink of the hill because the road isn't wide enough for everybody to pass at the same time. And some of the customers complain that tires have been cut from the edge of the road, so if they can't fit in the parking lot, they just drive straight by. So that's part of the problem as well.
Based on the Over the Hill website, some of the goals of the government for the community is to rejuvenate and restore pride in the area, such as implementing smart technology, youth and elderly rejuvenation, social empowerment, green and sustainable technology, and economic empowerment. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.